Story 2: The Signal from Deep Space. The Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico had been listening to the stars for decades. Its massive radio telescope, 1,000 feet across, nested in a natural sinkhole in the jungle, had been pointed at countless regions of space, collecting whispers of radio waves from distant galaxies, pulsars, and quasars. Dr. Elena Vasquez had worked there for 7 years, analyzing data, writing papers, attending conferences. It was methodical work, often tedious, rarely exciting. But she loved it because occasionally, very occasionally, the universe would surprise her. It was 2:30 in the morning on a humid August night when the signal first came through. Elena was on the graveyard shift, monitoring a routine sweep of a region near the constellation Virgo. She was half asleep, nursing her 3rd cup of coffee, thinking about whether she should have become a marine biologist instead. At least, marine biologists got to work during daylight hours. Then the computer emitted a soft chime. She glanced at the monitor, expecting another false positive, another piece of terrestrial interference that the filters hadn't caught. But what she saw made her coffee cup pause halfway to her lips. The signal was strong, far stronger than background noise. It had structure, not random static, but patterns. Repeating patterns. Her heart rate increased as she leaned forward, her exhaustion evaporating. She ran the data through multiple filters, checking for terrestrial sources, satellite interference, anything mundane that could explain what she was seeing. Nothing. The signal was coming from space, from a specific point in the sky, and it was clearly artificial. Elena's hands trembled slightly as she initiated recording protocols and sent an alert to her supervisor. Within 20 minutes, Dr. James Chen, the facility director, arrived at the control room, his shirt misbuttoned and his hair standing up oddly on one side. He looked at the data Elena had compiled, his expression cycling through disbelief, excitement, and something that might have been fear. "How long has it been transmitting?" he asked quietly. "Continuously for the last 17 minutes, Elena replied. "Same pattern, no variation." They listened together as the signal was converted to audio, a series of pulses, high and low, fast and slow, creating a rhythm that was almost musical. It reminded Elena of whale songs, of the way intelligence could be encoded in sound. But this wasn't from any whale. This was from something 37 light-years away, from a point in space where no known planet should exist. Over the next hours, as word spread, the observation room filled with staff members, all of them staring at monitors, listening to that haunting signal. They ran every analysis they could think of. The signal was narrowband, precisely tuned to a frequency that cut through cosmic noise with remarkable efficiency. It pulsed in prime numbers, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, before shifting to a different pattern that they couldn't immediately decipher. "It's trying to communicate," Elena said softly. "The prime numbers are a universal greeting, right? Any intelligent species would recognize them as artificial." Dr. Chen nodded slowly. "But what comes after the greeting? What's it trying to say?" They worked through the night and into the morning, applying every cryptographic and mathematical tool they had. The signal continued, unwavering. And gradually, terrifyingly, a pattern emerged. The pulses after the prime numbers sequence appeared to be encoding images, simple at first, then increasingly complex. Using the prime numbers as a key to establish image resolution, they began to reconstruct what the signal was transmitting. The first image was of a star system, 8 planets orbiting a central star. The third planet from the star was highlighted, pulsing in the transmission.
That's them,
Elena whispered. That's where they're from. The second image showed a sequence that looked like mathematics, but of a kind they'd never seen before. Symbols and relationships that suggested a different way of conceptualizing space and time. Elena felt her mind struggling to grasp what she was seeing, like trying to imagine a new color. The third image was of a spacecraft. It was enormous, a structure that seemed to be composed of interlocking geometric shapes, all rotating slowly around a central axis. And beneath it was what appeared to be a star map, with one star highlighted. Dr. Chen leaned closer to the screen. Can you overlay that star map with our astronomical databases? Elena's fingers flew across her keyboard. The star map resolved, matched against known stellar positions. And the highlighted star was Sol, our sun, Earth's sun. The room went very quiet. They're telling us they're coming here, someone said from the back of the room. Elena felt a chill run down her spine despite the humid heat of the facility. The signal had traveled for 37 years to reach them, crossing the vast emptiness of space at the speed of light, which meant it had been sent in the 1960s, long before Earth had any serious capability for deep space communication. They had known about us for at least that long. They had been observing us, and now they were announcing their intention to visit. The fourth image took longer to decode. When it finally resolved, Elena wished it hadn't. It showed what appeared to be a planet, but a dead one. The surface was scorched, the atmosphere stripped away, the oceans gone. And orbiting it was a fleet of the same spacecraft from the earlier image. Below the planet was a series of symbols that they eventually decoded as numbers. Population figures, perhaps. Before and after. The before number was in the billions. The after number was 0. Is that a warning? Elena asked. Or a threat? No one answered. They continued to analyze, to decode, to try to understand. The signal transmitted for 3 days before it suddenly stopped, cutting off mid-pattern. The silence that followed felt heavier than the signal had been. They had been given information, but what to do with it? The discovery was classified almost immediately. Government agencies descended on Arecibo, confiscating data, interviewing staff, reminding everyone of national security implications. Elena was told not to discuss what she'd seen, not to publish, not to even think too hard about it in case she talked in her sleep. But how could she not think about it? How could any of them? In the years that followed, Elena continued her work, but it felt different now. Every time she analyzed a signal, every time she pointed the telescope at a new region of space, she wondered if they were still out there, still watching, still traveling. The signal had announced a journey begun decades ago. If they were traveling at even a significant fraction of light speed, they could arrive in her lifetime. In the next few years, perhaps. She thought about that dead planet in the fourth image. Was it a warning about what they could do? Or was it their own world, destroyed by some catastrophe, and they were looking for a new home? Either interpretation was terrifying. Either they were destroyers, or they were refugees desperate enough to cross the vast gulfs of space seeking refuge. At night, Elena would lie awake, listening to the sounds of the Puerto Rican jungle outside her window. The coqui frogs singing their endless songs, the rustle of leaves in the wind, the distant crash of waves against rocky shores. She thought about how the earth had always seemed so stable, so permanent. But now she knew how fragile it was, how small and vulnerable in a universe that contained intelligences capable of crossing interstellar distances. Sometimes she dreamed about that spacecraft, those interlocking geometric shapes rotating in the darkness between stars. In her dreams, it would appear in Earth's orbit, massive and silent and incomprehensible. And she would wake in the darkness, her heart pounding, uncertain whether she'd been dreaming or receiving some kind of psychic warning. The signal never repeated. The universe had spoken once and then gone quiet again, leaving them with more questions than answers, leaving them with the terrible knowledge that they were not alone, and that whatever was out there had noticed them, had studied them, and was possibly on its way. Elena tried to find comfort in the mundane, in her work, in her relationships, in the ordinary pleasures of life on Earth. But there was always that awareness now, that knowledge that the universe was bigger and stranger than she'd imagined. That somewhere, out in the darkness, something was moving toward them. And all they could do was wait and wonder what would happen when it finally arrived. Years passed, then decades. The staff who had been present that night gradually moved on, retired, passed away. The incident became a classified footnote, known to fewer and fewer people as time went by. Elena aged, her dark hair going gray, then white. She eventually retired herself, moving to a small house on the coast, where she could watch the ocean and the stars. And still she waited. Still she watched the sky. Because the signal had been clear. They were coming. And somewhere in the mathematics of space and time, that journey was still in progress. A message and a visitation rushing toward Earth at speeds that defied human comprehension. On clear nights, Elena would sit on her porch with a glass of wine, looking up at the stars, and wonder, would she live to see them arrive? Would anyone? Or would the signal remain forever unexplained, a mystery that haunted the few who knew about it for the rest of their lives? The universe kept its secrets. The stars shone on, indifferent and beautiful. And Elena waited, holding the memory of that 3-day signal close, a terrifying gift of knowledge that she could never share and never forget.